At 4:15 a.m., about 200 nautical miles off the coast of La Guaira, something almost impossible happened. The AIS signal from the cargo ship Sparta IV suddenly went dark. A 500-foot vessel reportedly carrying a high-value weapons system and equipment worth around $1 billion had disappeared right in front of U.S. Southern Command. Russia appeared to be taking a major risk. By switching off the ship's AIS transponder, the Sparta IV could blend in with the crowded fishing traffic in the area, hoping to slip through the U.S. Navy's surveillance network and quietly reach a Venezuelan port. The reaction from Washington was immediate. An intercept order was issued from the Pentagon. U.S. commanders knew that if this ship reached port, Venezuela's coastline could soon be lined with launch systems capable of putting much of the Caribbean under pressure. As the USS Arleigh Burke picked up speed and moved toward Venezuelan waters, Caracas responded at once. Two Su-30 Mk-2 formations launched from El Libertador Air Base, armed with Kh-31 Krypton anti-ship missiles, a supersonic weapon that can travel faster than Mach 3. Then the situation took an unexpected turn. As the Venezuelan jets moved out over the sea, their radar traces suddenly vanished from U.S. screens. Inside the Combat Information Center, tension rose fast. American officers stared at displays distorted by the terrain of the Cordillera de la Costa mountain range. Had the Su-30s pulled back, or had they simply dropped into an area where radar could no longer track them? The answer came almost instantly. Using the 2,000-meter peaks as cover, the Su-30S executed a sharp vertical pop-up maneuver from behind the mountains. For only a few seconds, they exposed themselves, powered up their N001 radar at full strength, painted the USS Arleigh Burke, and then dropped back into the valleys before American defenses could properly respond. It was a well-timed ambush. The mountains had become a natural shield, and that left the U.S. Destroyer's captain facing a serious problem. If he activated high-power radar to search for the hidden aircraft, those emissions could act like a beacon for the incoming Kh-31 missiles. But if he stayed radar silent, he would lose sight of the Sparta IV, which was still moving in the shadows. It was a brutal tactical dilemma. The American captain made his choice. He ordered MCON emissions control, meaning the ship would shut down radar and maintain near-total electronic silence. Then he reached for help from far above the mountains, where the terrain could no longer interfere with the view. The MQ-4C Triton reconnaissance drone. Flying at more than 50,000 feet, the Triton became the fleet's eyes in the sky. Through a secure data link, it fed tracking information straight to the USS Arleigh Burke. Its job was simple but critical. Keep the Sparta IV under constant watch so the ship could not use the fleet's radar silence as an opportunity to break away. But the Su-30s were only part of the shield around the cargo ship. To guarantee the Sparta IV reached port safely, Venezuela also deployed S-300 VM Ante, 2,500 air defense systems along the coast using a mobile shoot-and-scoot approach. The method was straightforward and effective. The radar vehicles kept moving, switched on only briefly to search for USP-8 Poseidon surveillance aircraft, then shut down again and disappeared into forest cover. That created serious pressure on the American crews. The P-8S knew they were being tracked, but the radar bursts were too short, and the launchers moved too quickly for electronic warfare teams to build a precise targeting solution in time. Venezuela believed this mobile, guerrilla-style method made the system nearly untouchable, but that confidence did not last. From a carrier operating off Puerto Rico, EA-18G Growlers from VAQ-130 were rushed into the area. Flying at about 30,000 feet, they released 4 MALD decoys. With signature enhancement technology, those small drones generated radar returns that looked exactly like a formation of 4 FA-18 Super Hornets heading in for an attack. The deception worked. Believing a U.S. airstrike was beginning, the S-300 crews reacted on instinct. Instead of staying hidden, they powered up their 9S-32 grill pan radar at full output and kept it transmitting continuously to lock onto the false targets. That decision exposed everything. Those longer emissions gave a P-8 Poseidon orbiting at a safer distance enough time to capture the full electronic signature and exact GPS positions of the launchers. In that moment, Venezuela's coastal air defense network was effectively mapped, identified, and tactically sidelined. With the coastal threat reduced, the U.S. could shift its full attention back to the real objective, the Sparta IV. At sea, the chase was entering its final and most decisive stage. The cargo ship had closed to within 14 nautical miles of the coast. That left only 2 nautical miles, roughly 10 minutes of sailing, before it crossed the 12 nautical mile line and entered Venezuelan territorial waters. Once across that boundary, the legal picture would change dramatically. International law would make outside intervention far more difficult, and Washington's window to act would effectively close. So why was this ship causing so much alarm? According to U.S. intelligence, the concern was not the vessel itself, but what might be hidden inside its containers. Among what looked like ordinary civilian cargo, analysts suspected there could be Club K missile launch systems concealed in standard shipping containers. That possibility changed everything. Because if true, the Sparta 4 was not just another cargo ship approaching port. It was potentially delivering one of the most serious examples of containerized strike capability in modern asymmetric warfare. From the outside, it looked no different from an ordinary 40-foot shipping container, the kind stacked on cargo ships all over the world. It could be moved by truck, rail, or even placed on a fishing vessel without raising suspicion. But intelligence analysts believe something far more serious might be hidden inside. According to the reports, the container could hold a Club K missile system. Inside that seemingly ordinary box would be Caliber cruise missiles, capable of carrying a payload of roughly 500 kilograms and striking targets up to hundreds of miles away. If such a system reached port, it could be positioned almost anywhere. In theory, a launcher hidden among civilian cargo in Caracas could threaten strategic locations across the region, including major shipping routes like the Panama Canal or key U.S. installations in Florida. From a strategic standpoint, allowing that system to disappear into the landscape was not an option. But there was another complication. The USS Arleigh Burke was a warship. Directly stopping a civilian cargo vessel in international waters could be interpreted as a hostile act. Instead of moving in openly, the destroyer remained over the horizon, its SM-6 missiles ready but unseen. The task of approaching the cargo ship was given to the USCG Sea James, WMSL 754 of the United States Coast Guard. Officially, this was framed as a maritime safety inspection and anti-smuggling operation, a law enforcement action rather than a military confrontation. From a legal perspective, it was a careful move. Over the international radio channel, the Coast Guard ship broadcast a message demanding that Sparta 4 reduce speed, so inspectors could board the vessel and check for possible fire and safety violations. The Russian captain ignored the call. Instead of slowing down, Sparta 4 pushed forward and increased speed to about 18 knots. The calculation seemed simple. The Coast Guard would not escalate the situation, but the tension climbed rapidly. Venezuela made it clear that it did not accept the inspection. Out of the fog, 2 Venezuelan Navy escort ships appeared, Italian-built Lupo-class frigates. Their 127mm naval guns were pointed directly at the approaching Coast Guard cutter. Although these ships were older, their OTO Melara 127mm cannons had far greater firepower than the armament on the Coast Guard vessel. The frigates cut across the bow of the USCG Sea James, forcing it to turn sharply to avoid a collision. The situation had become extremely volatile. The Coast Guard ship was suddenly facing far heavier weapons, while the Russian cargo ship continued accelerating toward the safety of territorial waters. With only minutes remaining before reaching the 12 nautical mile line, it seemed the United States might lose the race. Then everything changed. A sharp metallic sound echoed through the hulls of the ships nearby, the unmistakable ping of active sonar at extremely close range. The signal came from less than a kilometer away. Moments later, the calm surface of the sea erupted. Water surged upward like a boiling cauldron as a massive dark shape rose from beneath the waves. Breaking through the surface was the USS Washington SSN 787, a Virginia-class fast attack submarine. More than 115 meters long and powered by an S-9G nuclear reactor, the submarine had silently approached beneath the Venezuelan ships without being detected. Its sudden appearance carried an unmistakable message. It had been there the entire time. For the Venezuelan escorts, the situation changed instantly. What had looked like a confident escort operation now felt like a trap. Overhead, surveillance drones were watching. Ahead, the Coast Guard ship blocked the route. Farther away, a guided missile destroyer waited. And beneath the water, a nuclear submarine had already taken position. The 2 Lupo-class ships suddenly seemed very vulnerable. Their sonar systems dated back decades and had never detected the submarine approaching beneath them. In a real conflict, they might not even have realized what had happened before it was too late. The balance of confidence began to shift. But in the sky, one Venezuelan Su-30 pilot refused to back down. Frustration pushed him into a dangerous decision. The fighter jet suddenly climbed from behind the mountains, performing another aggressive pop-up maneuver. This time, the pilot activated his fire control radar and locked directly onto the USS Arleigh Burke. It was a bold gamble. The pilot appeared to believe that the United States would hesitate to respond in international airspace. The reaction from the destroyer was immediate. As soon as the radar lock warning appeared, the Arleigh Burke powered up its AN/SPY-1 radar at full strength, directing a focused beam toward the Su-30. At the same moment, the ship prepared its SM-6 air defense missiles. Above the scene, EA-18G Growler aircraft joined the response. Using ALQ-99 electronic warfare pods, they flooded the area with powerful jamming signals. Inside the Su-30 cockpit, systems began malfunctioning almost instantly. The radar picture vanished. The HUD flickered, headphones filled with harsh electronic noise as the jamming overwhelmed the aircraft's sensors. Facing a wall of electronic interference and the clear risk of escalation, survival instincts took over. The pilot broke the radar lock, rolled the aircraft sharply, and dove back into the valley to escape. The aerial pressure had been removed. Now, only one piece remained on the board, the cargo ship Sparta 4. High above, the MQ-4C Triton drone continued its quiet watch from nearly 50,000 feet. Using its sensors, the drone focused on a specific point on the deck of the cargo vessel, container number 894. According to the intelligence picture, that was where the suspected Club K launcher was hidden. High-resolution thermal images were broadcast directly over the International Emergency Channel, followed by a firm warning. Sparta 4, we have identified unstable military-grade explosives inside container 894. If you continue for another nautical mile, we will have no choice but to disable it on the spot in the interest of maritime safety. That was the decisive move. Even then, the Russian captain made one last attempt to save the mission. He requested permission to divert to Havana, Cuba, claiming the ship needed technical repairs. The idea was obvious: reach a friendly port, buy time, let tensions cool down, and later look for another way to move the cargo into Venezuela. But Washington had already anticipated that option. The moment the request for entry into Cuba was made, the U.S. State Department sent an urgent diplomatic message to Havana. The warning was clear. Any country that allowed a ship carrying offensive missile systems to dock would be viewed as taking a direct hostile step and could face an immediate and full naval blockade. Cuba had no interest in taking that risk for cargo that was not even its own. Havana refused the request. Just like that, the final escape route disappeared. At that point, the USS Arleigh Burke delivered its last ultimatum. Sparta 4, you are denied access to every port in the region. Your only remaining option is to turn back toward the Atlantic. We will escort you out of the exclusive economic zone. The Russian captain finally understood there was no path forward. The billion-dollar vessel had no choice but to reverse course and begin the long journey back across the Atlantic. The fuel, the logistics, the time, and perhaps most of all, the prestige behind the mission. All of it had been lost. The Caribbean standoff ended without a single shot being fired, yet its impact felt greater than a direct clash. By forcing the ship to turn around, the United States did more than stop one delivery. It sent a message that would echo far beyond that day. In Washington's view, the Caribbean was not a place where rival powers could move strategic hardware freely and expect no response. Instead of becoming a new security challenge in South America, the suspected Club K and S-300 VM systems would now sit idle in Russian storage yards, far from the battlefield they were meant to influence. For Venezuela, it was a harsh lesson in how costly isolation can become. For the rest of the world, it was another reminder that real strength is not always about pressing the trigger. Sometimes it is about shaping the entire board before the other side can make its move.